And a good Monday morning on this 30th of September, the last day of September, and we're looking at a broad-scale feature here to take us out through the first couple of weeks of the month of October. Things are going to start to become a little bit more active, but it's kind of a slow start to that, and I'll get into that. But for now, currently we see a lot of fog, and this has been the case here. A lot of decent sunshine by day, foggy nights, especially during the morning. Sometimes it takes the full morning before it actually burns off. And it's a deeper kind of layer of fog and, of course, low sun angle this time of year. All of that contributing to a slower demise of the fog. But once it does burn off, it's a pretty decent day. We're seeing a lot of fog. These, in fact, these are the symbols of fog and a considerable amount of fog, which is a little slower to burn off in the areas north of, let's say, about the Barry-Montpelier area and points north. And, of course, we have a lot of saturated ground from the remnants of Helene. A lot of flooding, suffering still, saturated ground, a lot of damage from that particular hurricane. And of course, that just basically sitting and spinning still to the south, but its demise is coming to an end eventually here. Let's take a look at some of the longer range projections. But before I do that, I want to look at the current temperatures here. We also have a weather system in the northern branch of the jet stream where things are gearing up basically in western Canada, a little bit into the Pacific Northwest occasionally, almost getting down into California. Things have been a little bit more active. And this is going to be the area over the next really couple of weeks that's going to have the most active weather with the jet stream energy coming in off the Pacific Ocean. And right now, mainly the wind gusts are Chinooking. That is downsloping off the Rockies into some parts of this tighter pressure gradient is. This is a trough of lower pressure and a weather system up in Canada. And so swinging that jet stream energy off the Pacific Ocean, colder as well, and conditions still not cold enough for a whole lot of snow, a little bit of mountain snow here and there, but not generally a whole lot going on. But we'll take a look at the changes that are about to come. We're going to start out with the temperature anomalies at 850 millibars, roughly about 4,200 feet, about the top of Mount Mansfield or so, maybe just a little below the level there. That's the slice of atmosphere we're looking at, and these are temperature anomalies. This is much above normal. As you can see, temperatures running 12, 13, 14 degrees Celsius above normal. This is below normal. You can see not as cold as it is warm, but still some colder than normal weather. Conditions maybe 5 to 10 degrees below normal Celsius. And you can see that most of the cold air has been due to sort of high latitude blocking that is up in the polar region and also in the northern Pacific Ocean. Here's up in here is British Columbia, Alaska right up in here. This is the Kamchatka Peninsula. And so you can see that it's warmer than normal here. And jet stream flow is generally like this, and then down into the western United States, and then pumping up a ridge of higher pressure where each successive shot of colder air, these cooler temperature anomalies, which again, if you note, they're not as cool as it is warm out ahead of it. And these kind of fade as they work into the Northeast United States. So just kind of running the model, you can kind of see how this works. A little bit of warmer than normal and then fading, and then nothing really changes. Again, another shot of colder air across eastern Canada. Then the warmer than normal temperatures overtake it. Everything kind of fades. Now eventually, the way the weather pattern's setting up with this stronger shot of above normal anomalies out in the west and into central Canada, we start to see a little bit of a cooler than normal anomaly take place. This is about the 9th of October. And it does suggest that there is maybe even the possibility of some mountaintop wet snowflakes. But that's just the first. And again, not that a whole lot different. About the 10th of October, this has been a very drier and warmer than normal scenario. So we're seeing less of that. But as we run the temperature, you can see another shot of colder air working in with this very strong area of low pressure in the southern part of Alaska. This is being driven down, and we're opening up what looks to be colder than normal conditions near the pole. That would suggest maybe a stronger AO or Arctic oscillation, but still pumping up a PNA plus PNA, which then diverts that jet stream down into the eastern part of the United States at this point in time. We're talking about the 13th of October here. So we could even see potentially a little bit of wet snowflakes and a little bit of a change to our weather pattern. But again, this is not until the middle part of the month of October. Looking at precipitation and focusing in a little bit more detailed here, Vermont, of course, the U.S. Canadian border, the Great Lakes. We have a series of weather frontal systems that will be cutting across from that jet stream energy coming in off the Pacific Ocean. We also have this sort of persistent tropical cyclone formation, or at least wannabe. And some of this makes it into Florida, but these two systems are kind of cut off. The jet stream, the northern polar branch, stays to the north of our region, tries to make a run a little bit closer to us. The southern, more high precipitable water, tropical type air stays to our south. And this system finally gets out of town, as we can see this, but it gets picked up. But watch what happens to this frontal boundary as it runs into drier than normal anomalies. And indeed, this kind of wipes out. This would be valid basically on Wednesday night this week, the 3rd of October. And then look at that. Not a whole lot. Makes it even into eastern or southern New England. Look at the cooler air and the bluer lines here. This is -3 degrees at 850 hectopascal or millibars. And that's temperatures cold enough to support a little bit of snow, maybe some wet snowflakes if there were mountains here in central Canada. But this stays to our north, and if anything, it's warmer than normal temperatures. Another frontal boundary kind of makes it in here along about, it looks like Friday night. That would be early Saturday morning. And then this kind of gets wiped out. Here comes another area of higher pressure, and this has been the name of the game. A lot of sunshine, more sunshine than normal, and drier conditions than normal. Eventually, we have another tropical-like cyclone. Never makes it into the north and east. But this frontal boundary is going to try to snag some of that moisture, maybe enhance it. But look what happens. Again, it gets washed out. Not as much. And we're looking at the European AI version here. So this is a pretty decent look in the longer term. But you can see that frontal system blows on through. And then eventually we get maybe just a little cooler air. Again, this is about the 9th of October. And then this weather system is interesting. Now, if we land basically colder air in place and then the system kind of rolls over the top of it, we could actually see some wet snowflakes down to the valley floors along about the 10th of October. But right now it's pretty suspect, and this is a long ways out, so take it with a grain of salt. But you see the frontal boundaries are starting to come through a little bit more frequent now. This has got some pretty cold air that wraps down all the way down with temperatures of basically aloft to 0 degree isotherm at 850 millibars. And what you can see here is this upper low here now shifts from the west to the east and over southern Hudson Bay, James Bay, Canada. This favors some colder air working in over the Great Lakes. And so maybe we might see a little bit of lake effect snow along about the middle part of the month of October. Trends are basically that we're going to see kind of low snowfall doses going into the start of the winter, and probably not a whole lot of it, but that doesn't mean we'll see some of that, and of course a little bit of that tailing off maybe off Lake Ontario. Temperatures aloft at that point in time will be colder than normal. Let's take a look at that. So this particular graphic is the European ensemble, and it's 500 millibar heights, and when it goes below roughly about 540, 5,400 meters hectopascal thicknesses, basically, you're starting to see those temperatures dip a little bit below that. And indeed, this is the 0 degree isotherm, which we were looking at. So roughly, this is along about the 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 15th of the month of October. We might have a little bit of a shot of snow. But again, pretty limited at this point in time and relatively early. Typically, when we do cool down, we get also drier than normal air. And this is the precipitable water anomalies. And you can see that it's in the browner colors. And so that gets reduced. And this is a fairly dry pattern with a lot of the flow coming in off of the north and west from Canada. So once we get into this period, it looks like at the end of perhaps this coming next weekend, we'll start to see a change here. And favoring a lot of sunshine with the drier air and a couple shots of precipitation. So looking at that, that's going to be about the middle part of next week. And we do have a minor shot as that frontal system I showed you kind of falls apart, works on through. The second one that moves in also tries to basically show that it's going to bring us a little bit more precipitation, also kind of falls apart. The third one does get us, and that control run here for the blue shows that maybe over an inch of maybe a pretty decent soaker, and that's the signal being indicated by the European ensemble. And one other thing I'm showing you here is the chances for any little bit of snow. looks like a pretty minimal amount. Again, upper tops of our mountain slopes, potentially their first snow roughly about the middle part of October. Take this with a grain of salt, but you can see that temperatures are still hitting 70 degrees. And then we start to see a little bit of a dip, a little bit of an uptick there, and then steadier downward, and where temperatures will finally start to resemble a little bit more of fall as we get into probably the end of autumn colors. And beyond that point, we see a little bit of that cool off, potentially seeing a little bit of a dust up in some of our local mountaintops about the middle part of October. That's it from here, Roger Hill, Wuthering Heights. Thanks for watching.